StraightallDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is my fundamental conflict with the liberal view is what we're going to discuss here today. Now, people have asked me, or people sometimes ask, and especially when I'm doing live streams, I get people who make presumptive statements. It's not even questions, really. They're more presumptive statements. They say, well, you sound like you may be a Trump supporter, or I've had people tell me that they appreciate the fact that I'm willing to share any conservative viewpoints. And some people will say, well, you sound like a MAGA or right-winged person. I get that on X often. And what I've always maintained, and I continue to maintain, is that I have no political affiliation and no commitment to any political side. I never have had one. All I do is try to talk about things in a logical and objective manner. And what I've continued to say, and this has been being said to me a lot, especially since I started doing the live streams and I can get people's feedback in real time while I'm speaking, which is different from you all listening to this, something that has been recorded, is that I have never had anyone accuse me of being a liberal with the way that I talk. And again, I've never had any political affiliation. I was not raised to be in any part of any political party. So why is it when I try to talk logically and objectively, I only get accused of being a conservative? So anyway, as I was playing around with this question, I thought of what exactly does the liberal view stand for? Because there are probably some things that liberals are fans of that I may also be in support of, or I have a favorable view of. For example, just the general concept of abortion. I believe there are times when it is useful and times when someone should be allowed to use it. I think that's more of a liberal view than a conservative one. But anyway, I posed the following question to ChatGPT. Here's the question I asked ChatGPT. Quote, is it fair to characterize liberals as looking for solutions that can help everyone and serve everyone who needs it at the same time? Close quote. Now, the answer that ChatGPT provides gives more detail, better context, and the position from which I will make my points today. So here's what ChatGPT said, because I actually asked this question. I should give this context as well. That I was on X, which is the only social media app in which I engage in back and forth with anyone. And someone was saying, well, they were basically alluding to, and I'm paraphrasing what they were saying, the conservative view is all about you basically pull yourself up by the bootstraps and make it happen. And I often get people using that term, talking about the way that I talk as a kind of pejoratively, like, oh, well, you're one of those people talking about pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And yes, I am one of those people. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps, stop bitching about your situation, and work on your game and figure it out. I am of that approach. I think most of you understand that. And they were saying they were juxtaposing what they claim is the conservative view, which is pull yourself up by the bootstraps, with the liberal view, which is we want to make sure that we can help everyone and everyone can get what they need, based on what everyone's needs are. Everyone doesn't have the same needs, so we have to give certain people more and we give other people less. This is kind of the general idea of what equity is about, and I'm not a fan of it. But here's what ChatGPT says, quote, I'm reading what they say here. So it's a good amount that they give, but you need to understand this because this is going to be the frame from which I'm going to speak today. That characterization captures part of the liberal mindset, but it's an oversimplification. Generally speaking, liberals tend to prioritize collective solutions that aim to address systemic issues, ensuring that vulnerable or marginalized groups receive support. This often translates into policies that seek broad accessibility, whether in healthcare, education, or economic opportunity, rather than solutions that leave individuals to navigate challenges on their own. However, the key distinction is that liberals tend to emphasize equity, ensuring different groups get the specific support they need, rather than purely universal solutions that apply equally to all. They often argue that some people need more assistance than others due to historical or structural disadvantages, period, close quote. And what I want to talk about here today is based off that answer that ChatGPT gave, which better explains the liberal view than even I could have explained it. And we're going to use that, what I just read to you, as the frame for me telling you what my fundamental disagreement is with the liberal view, period, let alone any individual politician. But if you listen closely to what I just read, they came from ChatGPT so eloquently that most of the liberal politicians you've seen over the last, let's just say this century, the last 25 years, they all pretty much sound like this. This is what Joe Biden sounded like. This is what Kamala Harris sounded like. This is what Barack Obama sounded like for 8 years. And this is what, I don't know so much about Bill Clinton. I wasn't listening to the things he said as much at that time period. But all the other liberal politicians you hear of, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, these people, this is what they sound like. What we just read. That is more about the equity, and we got to make sure we give people who have less a little bit more, and people who have more, they get a little bit less because they're already in a good spot. So the whole goal is we got to give enough to the right people and give them the right boost to hopefully put everybody on a similar playing field and give people more help who need it and less help to the people who don't need it. I'm not a fan of any of this, and I've told you many times why I'm not a fan of it, but let's get into my point so I don't step on anything I'm going to say before we get to it. Point number one. Topic once again here today is my fundamental conflict with the liberal approach. Is number one, life ain't fair. Now, why is life not being fair one of my fundamental conflicts with the liberal view? Because the liberal view is all about emphasizing equity. Equity is all about we need to give everyone enough so that everyone give the right amounts to different people so that everybody ends up in the same spot. Well, that doesn't make sense. Now, again, let me use an example here that some of you may appreciate and some of you will not appreciate, depending on your approach. But let's say we're playing basketball and there's one guy who's 6'5" and there's another guy who's 5'5", and they have to play basketball against each other. But the 6'5" guy has an advantage because the basket in basketball is 10 feet high. So it's going to be hard for the 5'5" guy to get a shot off, and it's going to be hard for him to stop the 6'5" guy from scoring baskets. So what equity presupposes is that all we need to do is the 6'5" guy, he has a shoot on the basket that's 10 feet high, but the 5'5" guy, he gets to shoot on the basket that's only 6 feet high, or something like that. We got to somehow, or make the 6'5" guy play with one arm tied behind his back and both legs tied together, and now he has to play against the 5'5" guy. Somehow, some way, we have to hamper the guy who already has what they consider to be the advantage, and we have to create some type of booster for the guy who seemingly has the disadvantages, quote unquote. I'm completely against this concept because of what I just told you. Life ain't fair. Everybody does not get the same amount. Everyone does not start from the same spot. And this is exactly the way it's supposed to be. We are not all supposed to be exactly the same. With my background in sports, as I've always told you all, my emphasis is always on performance and results. That's the business we're in. Performance and results-based business. Even when you may be starting a mile behind your competition, your job is not to, go to the organizers of the race and say, hey, I'm starting a mile behind them. Your job is to say, okay, I'm a mile behind. When does the race end? How long is this race? Okay, what do I need to do to catch up to them before we get to the end of the race? All right, how do I strategically approach this? See, your job is to make up whatever difference you may feel like whatever disadvantage you may feel you are facing. You make up for that with strategy, skill, and effort. And if you don't, the scoreboard will mark you as a loser, regardless of the circumstances or the story behind it. Because let's keep in mind, folks, people don't want to hear your story until you're a success. So if you find yourself starting out further behind than someone else, but your goal is to still be successful, but you end up not being successful, i.e. you end up not winning, and someone else ends up winning, let me ask you a question. Who's going to get to tell their story? Who's going to be accosted and looked up to hear their story? The person who won or the person who would have won had it been a level playing field? We know the answer. The answer is going to be the person who won. Why? Because life is a results-based business. You get the business based on the results that you produce. If you don't produce the result, i.e. winning, then it doesn't really matter what your story is because nobody wants to hear it. I mean, you have a story, but nobody wants to hear the story. Your story matters when people want to hear it, and people only want to hear the story of the people who win. And all the stuff you had to go through in order to get to the win is only relevant if you win. If you go through all the shit and you don't win, nobody cares about the story. This is why perseverance matters. This is why grit and determination matters. This is why strategy matters. And this is why this is a performance and results-based business called life. Everyone who is listening to this right now has been or is facing a situation where the playing field is not level between you and whomever or whatever you are trying to beat. The playing field is not level, and the playing field seems to be tilted in the favor of your opponent, enemy, opposition, etc. You are still mandated with winning. It is still your mandate to win. Yes, I know it's not level playing field, and no one's going to fix it for you. No one's going to give you a boost to help you get quote unquote even with them so that everybody's starting from the same spot. Like, life doesn't work that way. If you're over the age of 15, that life does not work that way, that even though someone's starting ahead of you, that they don't get held back just so you can catch up. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. When I was playing basketball, I started playing when I was 14 years of age. Most of the kids in my neighborhood have been playing since they were 5 or 6. Did all of them get told they're not allowed to go to the basketball court for 10 years so I can catch up to them? No, I had to catch up from where I was at, and I was far behind them. But how did I catch up to them? All right, everything you hear me talking about to this day. The entire work on your game philosophy is rooted in what I did to catch up to those kids. Then I applied it in high school, then I applied it in college, then I applied it as a pro, I applied it in the business world, I applied it to everything else that I'm doing, and here we are. Long story short, that gives you my last 30 years or so. This is how it works, ladies and gentlemen. Life is not fair, and you have to figure out how to undo the disadvantages that may be set before you. And maybe you're lucky enough you got a bunch of advantages working in your favor. Well, you still got a challenge, because now you got to figure out a way to get yourself motivated, so to speak, and activated to go and make things happen, even though you have had what seems to be success served on a platter for you, because you still got to go do something to be successful. If you haven't overcome anything, nobody's interested in your story either. People are not interested in the story of the person who was born a winner and they just kept winning. There's nothing interesting about your story because nobody can relate to it. So you still got to figure out a way to win. You got to beat something. You got to find something to go up against to win. All right, why do you think someone like Mark Zuckerberg, the head of Facebook, which now calls itself Meta, why do you think somebody like Mark Zuckerberg decided to go become what is he doing? Like UFC, MMA fighting now? Why is he doing it? This guy's probably already some level of billionaire status, right? Relatively young, but pretty much well known as a successful person. If he just kept doing his tech thing on Facebook for the rest of his life, he's in a good space. Why did he go decide to do UFC, MMA fighting, whatever the hell it is he's doing? Why did he do that? One of the reasons he's doing it because God needs a challenge. Men need to be challenged. They have to overcome something. You got to go beat something. So this is why people go find something to do, some way to challenge themselves, even though you looking from the outside looking in and looking at them says, well, you're already successful. You don't need to keep doing anything. No, people need to be challenged. And when I say men, I mean man, meaning humans, not just males. Females as well, same thing. I made clear my stances on the concept of equity and equality. They are, first of all, myths. I don't like the idea of giving anyone a boost just because other people are further ahead of them, even though they are literally ahead of them. We can see. I prefer the idea of a person who finds themselves starting a mile behind, using that as a motivating factor, and they use that to find reasons, energy, etc., and ability to make up for the difference, and then they go win. That makes the win that much sweeter when you know you had to go a lot harder to get it. All right, that's the boat that I'd rather sail in. I don't want to sail on the boat of, oh, well, make it even for me, and then let's do it that way. No, let's do it this way. Let's do it unfairly, and I'm gonna figure out how to win anyway. And that just gives me that much more drive in the process of making it happen. And again, this is the way it works in life. Now in sports, for example, it generally is a fair fight. Everybody knows the rules. We're playing by the same, we're going by the same scoreboard generally, but do you have the same training as that person? Are you taking the same supplements as they're taking? Do you have the same background as them? Have you been in the sport as long as that person? No. So even though the matchup itself may be fair based on the rules, is it really fair when you're going up against someone who's been playing since they were 5 years old and you just started playing 6 months ago? Is that fair? Not really. But can you do anything about it? Not really. You just got to get on the court and you win, you win. You win, you win, you lose, you lose. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is my fundamental difference, my fundamental conflict with the liberal view. Number 2, while it is true that some people get head starts in life, I just explained that, and others get whatever you call the opposite of a head start. Let's call that an ass start. You didn't get a head start, you got an ass start. This cannot be denied. I believe that this is fair, and it's exactly how life is designed. Okay, this is fair. It is fair that some people start further ahead than you. Some people have opportunities and advantages that you don't have. This is fair. Life is supposed to be like this. For example, I have gone on Christmas mornings, more than once on a Christmas morning, gone to South Beach, Miami, and ran outside on the beach, and it was 80 degrees outside. Now, those of you who are listening to me, if you don't live in a place like South Florida, where you live on Christmas Day, could you go to a beach? First of all, is there even a beach where you live? And second of all, is it 80 degrees? And third of all, would you run on the sand that day? Probably not for any of you who doesn't live in South Florida. Now, is this fair? Not really. Is it equal? Not really. And honestly, it doesn't even matter your answer to either one of these questions. This is just what it is. Now, if you live in Chicago, you're not expecting it to be 80 degrees on Christmas Day, so you're not planning to go run outside on the beach. In Miami, I am, and I will. Is it fair? No. Is it equal? No. Is it different? Yes. Is this the way it's supposed to be? Yes. This is how it goes. The same way some people are tall, other people are short. Some of you were born into $1 million trust fund. And maybe some of you who are parents, your kids will be born into $1 million trust fund thanks to you. Some of you were born into $1 million in consumer debt and medical bills. All right, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. And you may be sitting in class next to a kid who has the trust fund and you got the bills. And you got to figure out how to beat that kid. Between now and you're in second grade, between now and high school graduation, you got to beat that kid. How you going to do it? I don't know. You better figure it out, though. Because when those college acceptance letters start coming in, they don't care about all that. Well, actually, maybe they will with no DEI and all that. But generally, they care about your performance. All right, did you perform? Did you not? Everything is not equal, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how we have come to this point that people have started to remember what you should have forgotten when you got out of preschool or out of kindergarten. Kindergarten, everything was equal and fair and everybody got the same amount and et cetera, et cetera. But as soon as you get out of kindergarten, it starts to become a competition. Like it literally starts to become a competition. As soon as you go into first grade, you are competing against the other students. Everything is not equal, and that's what makes life interesting. What people do with the situation that is handed to them is what makes things interesting. And I don't like the idea of manufacturing adjustments to people's circumstances to try to create equality or equity amongst individuals. I am fundamentally against this concept. And this is what the liberal view is all about. We want to manufacture some adjustment for this group or this person or that person so that they can be more quote unquote equal to somebody else who they're allegedly competing against. This has never worked. It never will work. It's not working right now. And even worse, it disrupts the natural cycle of the way things are designed to be. There's a reason why when you go to a public park, I was at a public park. I take my son out to a public park almost every day. As he's gotten older, you can't just take him. I used to take him on a walk, through the concrete jungle of Miami, but you can't do that anymore. Now he has to actually go. You got to have him actually go do something so he can burn some calories. And I often take him to parks, and there'll be parks where it'll be near water because everything is near water in South Florida, and there'll be signs in the park to say, hey, do not feed the animals. All right, do not throw food to the squirrels. If you see a fox or a raccoon or a deer, do not throw food to them, even though there will always be some idiots who just have to throw food to the animals. And then it causes the animals to start coming to every human because they expect when they say human, they're going to get food. There's always one dumbass who has to give food to the animals, excuse me. And it's usually, in my experience, some middle-aged white person doing this. But there are black people who are stupid too. But anyway, why do the parks tell you don't feed the animals? Parks tell you not to feed the animals because you don't want to disrupt the natural cycle of the way the animals need to operate, which is not wait for a human to come around and feed me. The way the animals naturally operate is they have to go get their food, and if they don't get their food, they die. That's the way it works. That's the way the universe works. This is the reason why a lot of people have problems with zoos, for example, because when you put an animal in a zoo, you're taking them out of their natural state of the way they actually live, was they have to go find their food, and if you fail to find food, you starve that day. You put an animal in a situation where they know they're going to get their food twice a day at a certain time, then the animal starts to lose its natural instinct to do what it's naturally supposed to do, which is go find something to eat or you're going to die. That's the way it works. And there seem to be people who think that they can play God, so to speak, and they can manufacture an outcome for a person or a group or an animal. And that's not the way the world was designed. That's not the way life was designed to be. You can't manufacture an outcome for someone. If they can't go get the outcome, then they just got to fall short of that outcome, or they're going to deal with the pain of not getting that outcome until they figure out how to fix it, until they figure out how to fix the problem. You cannot manufacture these adjustments. If everyone was supposed to start at the same spot and be completely equal, then that's the way your higher being, whatever you call that, God or anything else, that's the way they would have designed things. Your higher being did not design things that way because that's not the way life is. So while some of you may be thinking, well, don't they say all men are created equal? Well, that's what it says in the the documents made by the founding fathers of this country. And all men are created equal, but as soon as you get out the womb and you start interacting with the humans who brought you into the world, all of a sudden you ain't gonna be equal with the baby in the spot next to you in the ICU. Why? Because your parents ain't their parents. What if their parents are in debt and your parents are rich? All right, are you equal? Not anymore. You only been alive for 5 minutes. You're already not equal anymore. Because your circumstance and their circumstance is gonna be completely different. So you cannot manufacture this. When man tries to get involved and insert his own plans into God's plan, we get problems. This is one of the issues I've brought up with the whole concept of climate change. If the climate is going to change, it's because some higher being, bigger than any human being, decided that the climate is going to change. Now, yes, do humans contribute to it? Yes, they do. Humans do contribute to the change in the climate. But overall, the climate and the planet, rather, were designed to be self-sustaining in a certain way. And it's the reason why we have this planet where there's a certain temperature range that human life can sustain, and you raise it a little bit or lower it a little bit. There couldn't be any human life on this planet. All right, that was not designed by human beings. That was designed by a larger being that has much more influence and power and say over things than you or I or anybody else, regardless of their background, expertise, or college degrees. is when humans start trying to play God and say, what's manufactured this, we'll make it work this way. No, you won't. You can try, but you will fail. And at the same time, you're going to get a bunch of people excited that you're going to succeed when you're not. We already know you're not, because we got 60 years of proof that it doesn't work. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is my fundamental conflict with the liberal view. Number 3, I wrote about it in my book, Work on Your Game, which you can get at workonyourgamebook.com. The easiest way to get support from anything or anyone in life is to take initiative, which we talk about the opening of every episode of this show, the initiative to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen, and start supporting yourself, which creates momentum. When you start creating forward momentum, what will happen is people will notice that you're going somewhere. They will notice that you're doing something. They'll notice that you're making actual, tangible progress, and then they will get interested in getting involved with you. This is how it works. If you want to get people behind you and supporting you and being interested in you and in somehow, some way contributing to what you're doing and where you're going, the most important thing you need to do is not sit around and wait for some people to show up and support you. Most important thing you need to do is be like Forrest Gump in the movie. Remember the Forrest Gump movie when he just started running by himself, and then all of a sudden other people started running with him, and he just kept running, and it became a national news story. Who was this guy running? And everybody's following him. He had thousands of people running behind him. That's what you need to do. You need to be like Forrest Gump. Just start doing something. All right. Now, did he have any idea anybody was going to start following him? No. If you go out and start running outside in the street right now, are 1,000 people going to follow you? Probably not. The point, however, is that when you start doing things, you create momentum, and that will get other people possibly interested in getting involved with what you have going on. But if you're sitting there doing nothing, nobody's going to come go after you. The metaphor is, folks, no one chases after a parked vehicle. You ever chase after a parked vehicle? No, it's actually oxymoronic, because you can't chase something that ain't moving. So you only chase something that's moving away. If it's not moving away from you, you can't chase it. And if you chase something that's moving away from you, you might catch it. And if you're the thing that's moving and people are chasing after you, now you have that momentum, and the more people chase after you, the more attention, energy, etc. you draw to yourself. When people notice you're going somewhere, doing something, and making progress, they want to get involved. But when you're doing nothing, no one's interested. It doesn't matter who you are. Once you start moving, people will pay attention. And I too often see people complaining about the fact that somebody across the street is driving a Ferrari while you are stuck driving a smart car. While that may suck, let me ask you a question. Does your smart car, does it have gas? Is it gas in the tank? Do you have the keys? Or do you know how to operate a vehicle? Okay, get in the damn car and start driving. All right, don't complain about someone else having a Ferrari. You could be walking. All right, at least take advantage of the smart car you have and go somewhere. You cannot create momentum, ladies and gentlemen, by standing still and thinking about what you might do. Damn sure not by complaining about what you don't have or what you're not doing and what the government needs to do for you. Please, are you serious? It's 2025. Are y'all still falling for this? This is a losing strategy that too many people have adopted and have been supported for having this losing, failing strategy. Again, just in the last 25 years, can you think of any liberal politician coming around, or just liberal leaning person, forget politicians, coming around telling you, well, what we're going to do is manufacture the situation to make it more equal for this person, this group, or that group, and actually working to get anyone or anything further ahead than they otherwise would have been on a large scale. Maybe on an individual scale, maybe you can shoehorn a couple people in the sponsor where they don't belong. But in the big picture, it doesn't work. In the big picture, they always end up falling right back to where they belong. And when it comes to large groups, it doesn't even work in the short term, let alone does it work in the long term. This is the fundamental issue I have with the liberal view. All that said, let's recap today's topic, which is, again, my fundamental issue with the liberal view, which seems to be focused around equity and balancing the scales, so to speak, amongst people and amongst groups, which doesn't work, and they've been trying. Number one, life is not fair. Life is never going to be fair. Everyone is not going to have the same situation, the same circumstances, and the same elements with which to work, deal with it. Number two, it is true that some people have head starts and others get the opposite of a head start, whatever you want to call that, an ass start. This can't be denied. And this is fair and exactly how life is supposed to be. Again, on Christmas Day, it's 80 degrees in Miami, it's snowing in Minnesota. What's the difference? They are different places. There are different circumstances, and everything in life is not always everyone in life is not the same. Everything in life is not going to be the same. Every place is not the same. And this is the way that it's supposed to be. And number three, I wrote about this in my book, Work on Your Game. The easiest way to get support from anything or anyone in life is to build momentum by doing something yourself, rather than sitting around and waiting for and or hoping that someone else is going to do something to or for you. You create the momentum and the energy starts to follow you. All that said, everybody, Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com, learn more about working with me directly and about who we work with, how we can help you, and taking your next step. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all